This is Geeks Unleashed, episode 35.
I haven't started yet. You beat me to it. I had to reopen the window. Okay, now we're recording. Whenever you're ready.
We're professionals.
Yeah, we totally got this.
Hello, welcome to Geeks Unleashed, episode 35. I'm Mark.
And I'm Jasmine.
Each week, we cover the news of the week and we pick a couple of things to review that caught our fancy in TV, comics, movies, and games. This week's reviews are Specter Inspectors from the Boom Studios imprint, Boombox, and season 1 of Castlevania on Netflix.
And spoiler warning, this is a review show. So if you have not had a chance to read Specter Inspectors or to watch the first season of Castlevania, you might want to come back. Unless you just love spoilers. And then at the very end of the episode, we'll give you a couple of recommendations of our own.
Actually, there's something I wanted to talk about, which I'd completely not written down. I wanted to talk about customer service. You're like, what the hell? And but I'm talking about basically I was actually thinking about mentioning this the other day, but I didn't. So I've been buying my comics from the same comic company for 10 years. It's like mail order. It comes to my house. It's brilliant service. And you know, if it's not broke, don't try and fix it.
Exactly.
Right? Yeah.
Yes.
So anyway, when I moved house about a year ago, and when I moved house, there's a comic shop like 5 minutes from my house, and I was like, pop in there every now and again, etc. And I was really torn, thinking, well, it's only 5 minutes from my house. Like this would be more ideal. I thought, and I was like really torn because the comic shop I've been using, actually, I'd say it's more than 10 years, probably 15, 20 years I've been ordering from them online. And I was really torn about it because I was like, I've been with these comic guys for like 15 years. And yeah, okay, I've never met them. And I actually don't even speak to them. I say we don't speak, we exchange emails a lot, but I've never called them on the phone or anything like that. Actually, maybe once or twice, but generally it's just emails. But the service runs really smoothly. And when I say that smoothly, everything is bagged and boarded, comes packaged well. Everything comes it's easy. When I pay online, I know what I'm paying for. Literally, there's an invoice. It says exactly what I'm paying for. It's just really clear, right? Anyway, so I decided before Christmas, I thought, you know what? I'll give the guys a chance that are 5 minutes away from me. I'm not going to name either shop. I'm not going to slag anybody off. But anyway, so I decided before Christmas that I would wind down my standing order for the online place. And I thought it'd be quite nice just to be able to pop 5 minutes out the door, like Wednesday or Thursday, come pick up my comics, and then come home. And I thought, why not try the local guy? They're both small businesses, so it's not like I'm moving from a big business to a small business. And but they're both small, but just they both have different ways of running it. Anyway, for the last month, I've been buying my comics from this local shop, but honestly, I've just had enough. Every week, my order is messed up. They forget, so I pay for stuff that they don't put in there. I get home, open the bag, because unfortunately, because of the moment we're in lockdown, it's you have to just knock on the door. They pass it to you in a bag, and then I just a lot of the time just get in the car and then go home, and then I'm sit down. I'm like, oh crap, they've not put that in or whatever. Every week for the last 4 weeks, they've got no bags and boards. So that's kind of like a given over here. The comic shops have bags and boards. When you pick them up from the comic shop, they're bagged and boarded. And I don't know about I haven't bought comic from Forbidden Planet for years, but I know that's a big chain over here. But everyone else I buy from smaller independents, they always bag and board their stuff. And they literally keep saying, oh yeah, we haven't got stock. And last week, 2 weeks ago when I went, they did finally have one, a lot of bags. They were bought bags. I was like, oh, okay, good. Went to pick up today, and they because I didn't get a chance to go last week, so they handed me 2 weeks, and they handed me a whole bag, ones that are not bagged and board. When they handed it to me, I was like, oh, flipping heck. And they went, oh, sorry, our delivery guy keeps coming and keeps saying that we're not in. So, oh, right, okay. And then before I went there, like they sent me an invoice, and when I looked at it, it was wrong. They were trying to charge me for a comic that I'd already paid for a couple of weeks ago. And
Mhm.
then when I went to pick it up, like it wasn't there. And I only realised when I got home, so I messaged them saying, "Did this come out this week?" And they went, "Yeah, you should have it." And I went, "Well, I haven't, and that's why I'm messaging you." Like, and they were like, "Oh, okay." Like, and I just thought, do you know what? Like, I was with that other people for like 10, 15 years, no hassle at all. And like 4 weeks with these guys, like I say, no bags and boards. It's just irritating me. Like, and the fact that like most weeks they forget to give me something, and then this week they're trying to charge me for stuff I've already paid for, and I'm like, do you know what? It can't be that difficult. They just seem so disorganized.
Yeah.
Like, and
Are they
so
new? Like, did they just open or something?
and I think they've been running for years. Like, but they just like it just seems so chaotic. Like,
Mhm.
and you know, like, and oh yeah, and actually, there was a couple of weeks ago actually where I think it was before Christmas. I paid for a comic, and then when on my and so on the invoices they were originally saying what I was collecting and what I was paying for, because they do this thing where you have to pay in advance, which I find a little bit annoying, but I've kind of got on board with it. But I paid for this comic before Christmas, and then on my invoice for that particular week, it said what I was collecting and what I was paid for. And I noticed that there was on the collection bit a comic that I knew was out that week wasn't on there. So I was like, oh, okay. From memory, I thought I'd already ordered it.
Mhm.
So I went onto their website and just paid for it. So then when I got home, and then I had 2 issues of the same comic. I was like, why have I got 2 issues of this comic? Like, and I just messaged them going, "You give me 2 issues." They went, "Yeah, you bought two." I went, "No, I didn't." They went, "Yeah, you did." Yeah. They went, "You bought one before Christmas, and then today you bought another one." I went, "Well, that wasn't deliberate. Like, I only bought it because it wasn't on the order of the one I was collecting." And because obviously we're in this lockdown thing, it's not like I can really check stuff at the till.
Yeah.
Like, obviously they just hand me the bag, and I was just like, do you know what? Oh, I know I've been moaning now about five minutes on this, but I just think, do you know what? Like customer service for like obviously it's important whatever your industry you're in,
Yeah.
but I just like yeah, there was one actually, and there was an email the other day where like I made a comment because they sent me an email about about something or other, and how their order had been messed up or something or other, and I just made one comment about all of your orders seem to be messed up, like and like
You're really rubbing salt in the wound there,
Well,
Mark.
I just thought, well, literally, I've only been buying from about 4 weeks, and literally, it's just been problem after problem. And they sent me a really stroppy email back going, "Oh, we're in the middle of a pandemic, blah blah blah." And I was like, I'm not sure how that's got anything to do with how disorganized you are. Like,
Mhm.
just nobody's coming in every day. Surely, like, actually, customers coming into your shop must be a massive distraction. The fact that you don't have to see us daily must be brilliant. Like, you could actually probably get on top of it and maybe put a structure in place, but I don't know. I've really been ranting, and people might slag me off for this, but I just was like, I don't know. I just find it really frustrating, like how disorganized some people can be. So,
Uh-huh.
so the long and the short of it is, I'm going to go back to who I used to be dealing with. I prefer the idea of just dealing with people that are organized. So,
Yeah.
I don't know about you, but that's
Well, I
me.
mean, I don't like pre-order anything, so usually I'll just show up and whatever I can get my hands on when I walk in is fine with me, and if I can't get it, then I'll just get a digital copy.
I know.
I'm not so particular. I mean, there are a few series where I do have every copy. Like I have hard copies of every issue of like Firepower, let's say.
Mm.
Or some older things that I love, like Motor Crush. So like I will go in and pick up the physical issues of the ones that I do want, but I walk in, if they don't have what I want, I buy what's available and then I just pick up the rest digital. I
No,
don't stress.
no, but what I mean is, if it wasn't comics though, you've ordered
Yeah.
something, you go there, and it's like half the order's missing, or you
Oh
get
yeah.
home and like
It's
and
extremely annoying
like
because
like
especially like you said during COVID times, you can't just like go back to the store and exchange it. It's like now it's a freaking process because you didn't give me what I want or you gave me the wrong thing and now I don't want this wrong thing and I have to go jump through hoops to get it back to you.
oh yeah, it's just like at the moment I'm just yeah, like you say, because of COVID, it's not, and also because you have to book a collection time.
Hmm.
So I'm like, okay, so like when the other week when I got home and I was like, oh, actually this issue's missing. And I messaged them saying this in particular, like, and this they've done this a few times where the issue's been missing. And like, so I messaged them when I said the other day, and they were like, "Yeah, you should have it." And I was like, "Well, I haven't, and that's why I'm messaging you." Like, and they're like, oh, we'll have to see if we can find it. I was like, well, what do you mean, see if you can find it? Like, I mean, like, like, and then when they today sent me an invoice for it, like, I was like, buy it. I messaged back going, but I've already paid for this like
Yeah,
3 weeks ago. Like, and I was like, man, do you know what? There's enough going on in my life without having to deal with
yeah. Like
this.
I got enough crap to deal with. Comics should not become a problem. It should be a reprieve.
It shouldn't be that. It shouldn't be. Yeah, like you say, it shouldn't be stressful to go and buy your comics. Like, and I just thought, do you know what? The other people, it was easy. Every week, like normally you get an email on a Tuesday. I click on it, pay for it. Normally by Friday they've arrived at my house. Like, bang. Like that was the only real reason why I considered leaving, was because I was being impatient, and I thought the idea of popping in on a Wednesday and a Thursday would be quite cool. But do you know what? To wait a day or two, honestly, I'm just going to go back to
yeah, because I think, but when we first started the podcast, there was only a couple of times where the mail order didn't hit in time, and we had to pick something else, or we had to push back recording the podcast episode.
Or I ended up reading it digitally in the end, or whatever.
Yeah.
But that's kind of now what I've decided to do, is like, if my comics do arrive later than Friday, just read it digitally, and then I've got it anyway. Because I'd like to have the original. But anyway, I've been chatting about this way too long, so we'll move on to talking about
this
news.
is important stuff, though. Okay, important stuff.
Yeah.
People need to be able to get their comics on time.
Yeah, well, not on time, but also like get what you've paid for, right?
Exactly.
Like,
yes.
Yeah.
There's nothing wrong with getting what you paid for. I mean, honestly, that's the least that you can do with customers. That's a very bare minimum.
Yeah, and also it doesn't even matter if it's comics. Like if you've ordered food, or if you've ordered whatever you've ordered.
Oh my god, that drives me nuts. If I pick up a to-go order, especially because of COVID, I don't stand around checking everything if I go to a drive-through or if I pick up a to-go order, and then I get so pissed when I get home and it's like some of my side dishes are missing, or like something is wrong, and it's like, this would be so much easier if we were in the restaurant.
That happened a couple of weeks ago. We ordered McDonald's from Uber Eats, like, and then half the order showed up, and I said to the guy, "Where is it?" And he went, he went 2 bags, and then just drove off, and I went, "That was helpful." Like. In other words, what he meant was there was only 2 bags. Basically touched it and drove off. And so then I went on the Uber Eats thing, and I literally had to tick everything that was missing, and they did refund that portion. But I was like, well, this is great. It's half my order.
Well, I mean, but half your order, like you're ordering for a family. So like, what happens if the half that came in was for the kids and you didn't get it? You know?
Well, then I popped out and I went and got something else as well as to go with it, but because I was like, okay, well, I'm not ordering again. Like, but like today I popped out to get something, and I was about to order from Uber Eats. I was like, no, I'm not doing that again. And I know that was like a one. Actually, no, this happened to me 2 or 3 times from Uber Eats actually. But yeah, so I was about to order. I was like, no, do you know what? I'm jumping in the car.
Yeah. Now I'm weird, particular, whatever you want to call it, but like I don't order Uber Eats or DoorDash or any of that stuff. Like if I order takeout food, it's from restaurants who deliver themselves. So like my Chinese takeout place, they deliver. Or like I'll order from like Pizza Hut or something, and Pizza Hut drivers deliver. But I don't trust random Joe Blow dude who just decided that he wanted to earn a few extra bucks over the weekend by doing Uber. Like I'm sorry, I can't. Like I can't. Like I don't get my groceries delivered either. So like on the days when I go to the grocery store, I just throw on an extra mask and barrel through it. You know, like I want to pick my own produce. I want to pick my own meat products. Like I'm good.
Well, I rarely get food delivered, but sometimes it is handy, to be honest. Like if you've been away on holiday or had a really bad day or something. But anyway, let's stop ranting and talk about news. So starting this week's news is unfortunately, well, we've got 2 sad pieces of news. The first one is Christopher Plumber died aged 91, and we had a quick scan of his IMDb/CV. He's well known for many things over his 70 plus years in the industry, and one of them is a divisive film between people. Like, I know many people love The Sound of Music. I am not one of them.
We are not them. We are not those people.
However, I did want to put it on a positive note, though, that he has been in some films of mine that are actually some of my favorite films. So Star Trek V, The Undiscovered Country, probably one of my most favorite Star Trek films. I've actually watched that film loads of times. So I remember going to see that at the cinema with my parents when I was I can't remember, but I was like early teens or something. And then one of my other favorite films of him in 2006 was Inside Man.
Inside Man is an incredibly underrated film.
Oh, such a good movie.
It's really
Inside
good.
Man.
It's great.
And I really love Inside Man. Such a do you know, I love clever heist films. So yeah. And then, which I haven't seen, he was also
I saw twice in theaters.
Knives Out. So he also has won Oscars, Emmys, Tony Awards. Unfortunately, the Canadian actor has passed away, but he's passed away peacefully at his home in Connecticut. So extremely sad news there.
That is quite a loss. And another big loss is Cicely Tyson. She's a pioneering Black actress. She passed away at the age of 96. Wow. She also had a career that spanned about 70 years. She garnered several nominations, including 16 Emmy noms. She's won 3 Emmys, and she was actually the first Black actress to win for Best Lead Actress as in an Emmy. She's also won a Tony, and she was nominated for an Oscar. So that's a big loss. Most recently, she's been seen on How to Get Away with Murder. She is Annalise's mother.
Oh yeah,
yeah. But yeah. Cicely Tyson has been in a ton of stuff as well. So that's a big loss.
I love How to Get Away with Murder. She was brilliant in that.
Oh, she's great, and to me she always played like that sassy character that never quite felt as old as she was supposed to have been. A couple of my favorite Cicely Tyson films, Fried Green Tomatoes, loved her in that film, and Hoodlum, which I think is a really underrated like gangster type film. So yeah, Cicely Tyson, 96 years old.
Moving on from that to some really positive news, CW have renewed pretty much everything. They and actually it's quite nice, I would imagine, for everybody, actors, actresses, crew, advertisers.
They got a whole bunch of early renewal pickups announced already.
So they've renewed The Flash, Batwoman, which we're really pleased to see. That
excited about that.
Yeah. So Legends of Tomorrow, I'm really done with that show, but
it's not done with you, Mark.
Well, no, I mean, I may have to watch some of it, but it's just such a bad show. It's such a bad show now. Like, yeah. Anyway, they've renewed Walker, which I think you were saying is the highest rated show in over 5 years. On
highest rated season premiere in 5 years. So Supernatural fans really showed up for Jared Padalecki. Let me just tell you that much.
Or Walker's Texas Ranger fans showed
up
as well.
That is not what happened at all. It was 100% Supernatural fans showed up for Jared Padalecki. I can guarantee you no original fans of the Walker Texas Ranger show showed up.
You're saying no Chuck Norris fans?
None. Not a one.
Tuned in for that. There's so many similarities between Chuck Norris. Anyway, All American, which I've never watched. Charmed, which I love. Dynasty, which I have seen like maybe 2 minutes of the new show. In the Dark, which I've never watched. It does look pretty cool though. But Legacies, which I've watched the first 2 seasons, I at some point probably watch season 3. Nancy Drew, I have caught a couple of episodes. It does look pretty cool. But Riverdale, unfortunately, I am a season behind on. But it's one of the most crazy teen shows I think you'll ever watch. Roswell, New Mexico. I do watch this. I never saw the original. Did you watch it?
Nope.
Did you watch it? I saw a little bit of the original, and it's very similar, I'll say. Yeah. So, what else have they done? So yeah, that's it. And then they've ordered 5 more episodes of season 1 of Walker, bringing it up to 18 episodes. And they've also ordered 2 more episodes of Superman and Lois, which makes it 15 episodes. No news on Superman and Lois been renewed, but
it also has not been released yet either. So CW pretty much didn't renew anything that has not already premiered.
I bet you
early. I mean, there's still plenty of time for them to announce renewals, but the ones that have not premiered yet have not picked up an early renewal.
Oh, I can imagine it'll be renewed.
Yeah, I mean, people love the Arrowverse, so it's coming back.
Yeah, sure. I mean, and also people love Superman, so
yeah.
And with Supergirl going, I can't see that they won't carry Superman.
Right, they're gonna have to fill the void with something.
And that trailer for Superman looks so good.
It did, actually. I hate to admit it, but it totally did. It looked really good. I'm not the biggest fan of Superman, but like that series looked really. And Tyler Hoechlin was really, really great casting. He's actually a really, really good Clark Kent.
I love the fact that actually he's had such a minor role in Supergirl over the last, was it 5 or 6 years or something? Supergirl's been on. But when he's there, his presence is so well known. Like he really does stand out. Like and I used to shamefully to admit that I watched every episode of Teen Wolf and
don't be ashamed of what you like, Mark.
Well, no, I mean it's not a great show, but do you know what, though? There are some shows that are terrible, but like they're terrible and you still can't help but watch them.
Yeah, but if you can acknowledge that it's a terrible show and enjoy it despite the fact that it's a terrible show, that's fine.
Oh yeah, I know. Do you know there used to be a really terrible show I used to watch. It went on for 5 seasons. It was one of those what you call summer shows. It was that alien invasion show. It had that guy from, I think it was ER or something.
Noah Wyle?
Yeah, him, yeah.
Yeah, I remember that show.
Oh, I forgot the name of it, but it was so bad. Actually, the first season or 2 was all right. Like, I wouldn't say it was brilliant, but honestly, it got worse and worse every year. My wife would be like, why are you watching it? Like, she'd even say, why are you watching it? It's so bad. And I'd be like, well, I just want to finish it. I also have this thing where, like, if I've started it, I want to finish it.
See, I don't have that. Thankfully, I don't have that. So, like, you ask me all the time, like, "Oh, we covered this in the podcast. Aren't you going to finish it?" And I'm like, "No interest. I'm not gonna keep watching."
I do have this whole thing. If I've spent X amount of hours, I'm like, well, I've already spent X hours, so I may as well just put in the X more hours to finish it because then I'll know. And sometimes, but a lot of the time, I will know that I'm watching crap. But I'm just like, but I want to know. I want to know how it's going to end. Like, because sometimes I think, maybe they'll save the day.
Like, they never do though.
Like, and well, we're going to talk about this later, but WandaVision, like, which we're going to talk about later, that's a show you need to go back and finish, but or not finish. It's not finished,
but yet, catch up on.
I'll catch up on, yeah.
Yeah.
And the other show you need to catch up on is Gangs of London.
I know. Okay.
That one. Like, anyway, we'll stop now. CW renewed loads of shows, and some shows got extensions, which I think is positive news.
Yeah. So our last bit of news for this week has me super, super stoked. It is more news about the Mass Effect Legendary Edition. So EA has finally announced an official release date. It is not March like was rumored before. The official release date is going to be May 14th. So middle of spring, pretty much. So with this new release, it's all the DLCs are going to be included except for one. The one that's not coming is Pinnacle Station, which was a DLC for the first Mass Effect game. That game only had 2 DLCs. So Bring Down the Sky will be available, but Pinnacle Station will not. And the reason for that is the code was corrupted, apparently. So because of corrupted code, that DLC is not going to be included. But all of the other DLCs, the content DLCs, character packs, and armor and weapon packs are all going to be included in the cost of the Legendary Edition, which is $60, which is kind of awesome for 3 full games. So $60 price tag on that, which is really exciting for me. Lots and lots of updates came to Mass Effect 1 because it was the oldest of the 3, naturally. So they updated the HUD display, or the HUD. It's going to look a bit more like the HUD that shows up in 2 and 3. Supposedly they have made the Mako easier to handle. I will believe that when I see it for my own itself because the Mako is incredibly hard to drive, especially when you're trying to get away from Thresher Maws. They have updated character graphics for the first game. They have gone through and done minor conversation changes. They have tweaked some of the gratuitous shots that are spread throughout mostly the second and third game. Overall, they've done lots of graphic updates, but they still say that you can pull OG preset characters, so not to worry too much about that. And for the people who love those lengthy elevator rides in the first game, there will be an option to skip the elevator scenes, or you can let the conversations play out as they naturally would. The Legendary Edition is only going to be available for Xbox One, PS4, and PC. It is not available for the new gen console, so you will not be able to play it on PS5 or Xbox Series X.
What? It's never going to come out on the next gen consoles.
So far, no. Also, they're not bringing in the multiplayer component for the third game, which is fine by me because I'm an antisocial gamer, so I hated playing the multiplayer anyway. But they're gonna kind of just leave that alone because they don't want to maintain the multiplayer servers that come with it. So
It must be a bit annoying if you bought a PS5 and got rid of your PS4.
Yeah.
Although I can't see many people have done that at the moment because, like, I would imagine that it's probably economically better to keep both consoles at the moment. But as time
I mean,
on,
until things get to the point where they're automatically kind of upgraded or become backward compatible, then there's no reason to throw away your existing console for the new one. So you might as well just keep both.
I don't plan on getting a PS5 until the prices are much cheaper, and also until you can get one.
I think when I finally upgrade to the Xbox Series X, I will finally get rid of my Xbox 360.
Are you wanting to get a PS5 at some point, or you're not?
It depends. When other games start to come out, if they ever revisit Uncharted, if we get another addition to the God of War series, maybe. I do want to play the next Horizon Zero Dawn. So there are some games that I would like to play. And we just have to kind of wait and see. Like PlayStation's not my go-to console, so
yeah,
hard for me to make that switch.
There has been talk about Uncharted 5, hasn't there?
Yeah.
Which I'm torn over because the end of season.
Yeah, 4 was really good.
The fourth game, it kind of like I was like, no, you don't.
It wrapped it up really nicely. It had a really great story.
Do you know? I was thinking it could be that they were to bring it back, like where maybe you'd want him to be in it, like, but maybe his daughter could be with him, maybe, I don't know.
Or it could be one of those things like adventure. She goes off to college, and in college, like her internship is doing his daughter. I mean, like her internship is like in some jungle somewhere, and then something goes wrong, and he's like, "Well, got to go save my kids." So peace out. I'll be back.
I could get on board with that. Like if there's a reason for him to get back, which isn't just him being selfish, and after the next big treasure, if actually she goes after the next treasure, and maybe then he has to go after her.
And then it could just be like a buddy game, but it'll be a buddy father-daughter game, so it would be like a less depressing version of The Last of Us. Even though Ellie and they're not father and daughter, but it kind of feels like that kind of relationship.
Okay, so we will wrap up our news. All right, okay, so our first review is Specter Inspectors, the first issue of a 5-issue miniseries from Boom Studios' Boombox imprint, and it's written by Bowen McCurdy and Caitlin Musto, and the art is also by Bowen McCurdy as well. Oh, and the cover's by Bowen McCurdy as well, so which I hadn't realised. Anyway, I did pick up the paper version. I got the variant cover. I have to say, this is the first ever comic I've picked up from Boombox's imprint. Boombox. To be honest, I always thought it was kind of like more for children, so I didn't really pick this up. And so what I actually realised was, because I did Google and had a little look at the imprint, and stuff under this imprint is released for children and adults. So this book, I would say, is probably teenage plus. I mean, the artwork itself is all ages, but the story is a bit
The story
creepy.
could get creepy, yeah, for sure, for
And
younger kids.
the creepiness is kind of in a funny way,
Mm-hmm.
but you could see maybe younger, more impressionable children, it might play on their minds. So I would just beware. That's all I would say. So I personally wouldn't want my children to read this. I feel like they're too young.
Mm-hmm.
But anyway, so the book stars four children. Teenagers, they must be teenagers, they must be 17 plus because they drive and stuff like that, and check into motels, so they clearly
the three of them are college grads, but like new college grads, so maybe they're like 21, 22.
Oh, okay. So the four young adults, as Noah, Astrid, Gus, and Co. Clearly very common names. So definitely not over here anyway. So especially Noah, the way it's spelled, it has no H. So,
yeah, well, it's a girl too, so a girl named Noah is kind of odd.
Oh, is that? Yeah. Maybe that's where the thing. I've never seen that variation of Noah. So
Yeah.
I like the names though; they're pretty cool. But yeah, like you say, they're not your Claire Daves and your Steves, are they? So, but then that's what the cool thing about comics is, that you can kind of just have that crazy different name.
Yeah, go wild.
This comic is like, if you're a fan of Scooby-Doo, if you're a fan of Supernatural, and if you're a fan of both,
this is right in your wheelhouse.
And if you are definitely a fan of Supernatural, and you can remember they did these crazy one-off episodes with like the Ghost Hunter ones.
Yes, Ghost Spacers.
Ghost Spacers, yeah. That's it. Did you watch those episodes?
Oh my god, Ghost Spacers. Yes, I loved the Ghost Spacers.
Well, it's making me want to go and rewatch Supernatural. So these young adult students, they have, I think it's like a YouTube channel. And
we assume they don't really specifically say, but they do talk about going viral.
Yeah, so I think it's a YouTube channel, and they go in and they film. They break into sort of haunted type places, and they film. And as the issue goes on, they talk about how they weren't doing particularly well, and their last video went viral, and then we find out why. But they get to this place called Cape Grace, and they book into a motel originally, and they kind of chit-chatty and having a bit of an intro, and they refer to themselves as the Inspectors, which I thought was kind of cool. The whole thing, to be honest, is really like lovely. And as an adult, I didn't think it was creepy, but like I said, I think it would play on people's minds, like who are maybe like 10 and below, I think. Do you know what it made me think of, actually, when they got to the big house? Casper, the movie.
Yes. With Devon Sawa and Christina Ricci.
Yeah, that. When how all the random people kept going in, and then eventually Christina Ricci's family go in, and actually they kind of do go in. But yeah, when they arrive at this big house, it really made me think of Casper, especially when they go into sort of the big foyer when it's all open and everything. And man, I would never have wanted to move into Casper's house.
Nope.
But yeah, so they're sort of going around and like filming stuff and sort of stretching their legs and everything like that. The one thing I thought was a bit silly on their part, because they say there's no attic on the plans, and then they're like, what's that?
Right.
And I was like, well, if you saw the plans, you would have known that there was a bell tower, right? So,
yeah, you should have.
But anyway, so they go up into the tower, and I can't remember. So the two sort of main girls.
Yeah, Astrid is the purple-haired girl.
Yeah, I got confused by the names, but they end up in an argument, and they're sort of referring to their viral video.
Street racers, yay!
Oh, is that what that was? And,
yeah.
Oh, that's what happened the other week on mine, where I had someone zoom past me. And anyway, they end up in this bell tower, and they're kind of sort of hashing things out and talking about hearing voices, and I was like, oh, okay, and then they're like, yeah, you heard them too, didn't you? And all the spiritual stuff, and they're like, Astrid's, well, I've got to tell you a secret. Not sorry, I've got to tell you, I kind of did something, and I edited our last video, and I was like, and
Ah.
I put voices in there, and I was like, initially I was a little bit annoyed by this because I was like thinking, this is quite early on,
Yeah.
like to have like quite a big moment between the
Mhm.
two, and I thought I was a little bit thinking, could we not have saved this drama for a bit later and maybe explored the house more?
Oh no, because they have more drama later.
Yeah. And like, but then as they're sort of getting really heated, and she's like, you're not taking this seriously, and then it's kind of really weird. Like, and I didn't really get how they showed the puddle drop, unless they're going to explain that later. Like,
Yeah, maybe.
they show Astrid sort of sweaty, and then they kind of show this puddle drop thing.
Yeah.
And then like it goes to
She sort of passes out, and then we go to 3 days later.
Yeah. Like so so then they're back in the hotel room with there, and they've like left her alone for 3 days, which I think's
weird.
There's no way anyone leaves their friend in the room next door for 3 days.
No,
like,
and not go in there. No, you don't do that.
Like, I mean, an hour maybe, but like not 3 days. Like, so then they go into the room, and when you see it, it's completely wrecked, and then Astrid's, of course, on the ceiling.
Yes. That's when it gets really creepy, because it's like, that's like a classic possessed person pose.
Oh yeah, completely. I was like, at that point, I was like, what the fuck is going on? Like,
yeah.
So they do cover possession, and that's where I think it would be quite creepy for younger readers.
Definitely.
However, the possession is done, I think, in quite a funny way.
Yes, it is definitely not like creepy, scary face. It is very much like cheesy, scary face, kind of.
Like they have, I do like the fact they all get in the car with Astrid, and they even make jokes about like, why am I sitting next to her?
Yeah. So of the 4, there's 3 of them that graduated from college, and then Noah, who's like the host of the show, so to speak, her younger brother, his name is Gus, so he's still in high school, and his question, like the whole time they're in the car, is like, why do I have to be the one to protect your creepy girlfriend?
I like so they're trying to leave this town, and he's like, I've driven past the leaving sign 3 times, and they're all looking a bit like weird. And then suddenly Astrid's, whatever's possessed Astrid, is like suddenly kicks in, and then like the lettering's really cool, by the way, like how they switch from Astrid to show the difference.
Plus the way that they draw it, like when Astrid's possessed spirit is talking, she's got 2 sets of pupils in each eye, so that you can kind of almost see like there is a person trying to show through her. So I thought that part was really cool too, the 2 pupils.
And I like it. She's like, I don't know how it would sound, but she's like, you won't be leaving, or whatever, like, and then Astrid's like, you guys heard that right? You guys heard that too, right? And I was like, actually, I quite like that, like the fact the flip flopping between Astrid, like half, it's almost like half possessed, like
right.
Fully. And then there's like
like it's in there, but it doesn't have full control.
Yeah, but there's like banter between Astrid and the poltergeist or whatever it is,
which kind of reminded me of Hellstrom a little bit, like the way that the mother in Hellstrom was possessed, but like could kind of suppress the spirit sometimes.
That was horrific though. And actually, her acting was probably the best part about that show.
Yeah, she was 100% the best part of that show.
Anyway, let's not talk about Hellstrom. Oh, it's a terrible show. Anyway, but the flip flopping was quite good. Like the way they did it, actually, I have to say. Like, and so she kind of wants to the demon wants to make a deal with the 3 friends.
Go figure, a demon wanting to make a deal.
But I like it when they say, look, I don't know that much about demons, but what I do know is you don't make a deal with a demon.
Exactly.
And then I did like the demon's response was, okay, let's do it like how, let's not say this is an official deal. Let's say it as you humans would say, off the books.
Yeah.
And I thought, that's actually quite funny. Like,
especially for a 100-year-old demon to kind of have the slang down,
Yeah, like, and do you know, the brother is 15, actually. Yeah, he does say I'm 15. But anyway, like honestly, I do love the whole banter thing. But what I love was, as they're phasing out, like, I kind of feel like I should read this. So, like, yes, in order to release me and free your friend, you must find something that was taken from me over a century ago, along with my memory, and they're like, and that is my name.
Dun dun
Like,
dun.
and I was like, okay, that's cool. And
Yeah,
like, you made a mention to what that sort of made you think of.
yeah. It,
So
of course, like the first thing that popped into my head was Rumpelstiltskin, which is the fairy tale where the little goblin demon guy is like, I'm gonna wreak havoc until you tell me what my name is, and people have to figure out that his name is freaking Rumpelstiltskin,
I
because
really
that's so
hope.
common.
I really hope though that they do make that joke in the next issue because that would be really
That
cool.
would be hilarious, wouldn't it?
Like it'd be good if they do recognize that that is clearly something that's been done
Yes,
before, and
right.
then and if he laughs it off like no, like that, I'd love it if they do something like that.
Yeah.
But I do you know what though? What I really love is the artwork like from this
It's
book.
really cute. It's got lots of soft edges. It has bright colors, but they're still kind of like muted bright colors. It's a very colorful book. There's a lot of detailing in the backgrounds. There's a lot of detailing in the landscapes. Um, and there's even detailing in like the characters' facial features. So it was fun to read. I breezed through it to the point where when I got to the end, I was like, that can't be it already.
I know.
Yeah.
But you know, like the dialogue as well, I just
Mhm.
felt really flowed really
Yes.
well. It felt it was a nice read. There was
Yeah.
like I don't know. Sometimes I pick up a comic, I'm like, oh, so like
It's a chore.
not yeah, I'm not like every comic, but like there's some
Yeah.
comics you pick up and you're like, oh, flipping heck, like
I will never forget
um,
opening that first issue of Death Metal, and it was just like there were so many word bubbles on the page. I was like, I can't even see the illustrations because there's so many word bubbles on this page. This is ridiculous.
I never like. Oh well, I know a lot of people love death metal, but death metal was just
Death Metal was
terrible.
hard to read,
Death
honestly,
metal.
but this book was like honestly, like you said, it just you. It's a page turner. It's nothing special. It is nothing new. There's no new formula. It is very familiar. A lot of the aspects of this book are things that you have heard somewhere else. But like at the same time, even though these characters are kind of generic, they're still very endearing. Um and you really get kind of pulled into the story and like I made a note like the whole Rumpelstiltskin shtick. I was like, I'm embarrassed to say that that really kind of pulled me in. I was like, dang it, like now I want to know what this demon's name is and like what the story behind this demon is and why it's there and why it's willing to make this deal in the first place as opposed to being like a malevolent spirit, you know?
That's actually, do you know, that's actually one of the things I wrote down was, just about the characters. I did write down that there's not a lot of character background or
Mm-mm.
development of these characters. You kind of
Mm-hmm.
just thrown in really to just them rocking up to this
Right.
motel, then creepy house, and then
Right. It's
possession,
like we
and then
catch them when they're
like,
maybe like 5 or 6 episodes into their whole entire Ghost Hunter series or
oh
whatever.
yeah, they did
Yeah.
make a joke. They made a joke, didn't they? Like, oh, we don't talk about episode 4.
Yeah, exactly. I thought that was funny.
There is some good humor actually.
Yeah.
Like, but yeah, there's the characters haven't been really fleshed out. However, they've kind of given us enough surface of them, but and probably over 5 issues, we may not really learn that much about them. So it probably will just be about this arc, like
Mhm.
about whatever this demon wants. I would definitely read the rest of this miniseries. So
I would too. I enjoyed it. I really did.
I'm
It was a
torn.
nice change of pace too because it was a nice easy read, but it still kept my attention and I was intrigued by the end. And it asked enough questions that made me want answers to them. Like so like they talk about this house that they go to, the town hall. It's not a house, it's a town hall that they go to where there was a fire 100 years ago and that fire killed 2 people. So of course by the time I got to the end I was like, okay, well, who were those 2 people that died in the fire? Why was Astrid chosen as the vessel as opposed to Noah, Gus, or Co? Why did the demon say that Astrid was really empty inside? Like, what's wrong with her? Like, there's so many questions that I have, and I thought that this first issue did a really good job of dropping those breadcrumbs to keep me interested, as opposed to dropping breadcrumbs that I didn't even care about.
I I would definitely read the rest of this. The only thing I'm a bit torn about is whether I'd read the issues or whether I'd read it in one go.
I'd wait until it was collected and I'd pick it up again.
I actually think it'd be quite a nice graphic novel to have.
Mhm.
But no, I'd yeah recommend it if you're looking for something that's a little bit different.
Yeah.
But like you say, it's nothing particularly original, but I
No.
do think it's also different in a sense. Like I don't know, like I guess it's different in a way that you don't need. There's nothing to have read before. And I know it's not the only indie book that comes out weekly, but or is coming out every week. There's always new indie books out there, but
hmm
I do really like this style of book. I definitely would recommend this to people. I think if you're fans of Scooby Doo and Supernatural and things like Casper, I definitely feel probably 14 up would probably appreciate this book.
Yeah, Comixology listed it as 15 plus.
Okay, well, there you
So,
go, it's almost there.
Yeah,
Well,
you're right there on the mark.
I forgot we gave it a 4 out of 5. So
yeah, I mean, we like we said, we enjoyed it. It's nothing special. One of the unique things about the book is that it does have a queer couple as like the forefront. So Noah and Astrid are both girls. They're a couple, and they talk about being girlfriends. Like it's nothing, but it's not one of those books that kind of, there's nothing sexual in this book. There's nothing inappropriate. It's not an R-rated book, so there's nothing being flaunted or anything like that. It's just kind of naturally plays out in conversation to the point where it's not even something that is sort of worth mentioning, because it's just a natural, normal thing. So,
and the writer Bowen, she has on her website as well that she's gay as well. Like so, taking from her own experience rather than just looking it up.
Yeah, then just trying to tick a diversity box.
Yeah.
So we enjoyed this book, 4 out of 5. It's a good pickup. Moving on to the next bit. Now, this is something that I had watched when it originally came out.
I can still rip your throat out. You can, but it won't stop me staking you. But you will still die. But I don't care. Killing you was the point. Living through it was just a luxury.
Castlevania, the first season. I was so excited about this show. I actually got to, at the time, I think it came out in 2017. At the time, I was writing for another website, and I got to interview Adi Shankar, who is one of the producers for this show. And that is, to this day, still one of the most fun, quote unquote, celebrity interviews I've ever done, because somehow, some kind of way, because Castlevania started as a video game, and we got to talking about Mortal Kombat, and we spent so long talking about Mortal Kombat that his publicist was like, "You've got 3 minutes left." And I was like, "Oh crap, I still have a lot of questions that I have to ask you about Castlevania, but we spent so much time talking about Mortal Kombat." So Castlevania was based on the video game, the Japanese video game from the video game series that originated in 1986 from Konami. This series was created by Warren Ellis, developed by Adi Shankar, directed by Sam Dietz, Adam Dietz, and Spencer Warren. The season 1 was written by Warren Ellis. Voice cast stars Richard Armitage, James Calais, Graham McTavish, Alejandro Reynosa, Tony Amendola, Matt Frewer, and Emily Swallow. Now, it's a spectacular voice cast, honestly. Richard Armitage is really great as Trevor Belmont. My favorite voice character, though, is definitely Vlad Tepes, because I love Graham McTavish so much. He was the villain in the second Uncharted game as Victor Lasoyevich, I believe. Anyway, there's several yelling scenes in Uncharted where Graham McTavish is just yelling Nathan Drake's name. And at one point, Dracula screams in the first season of Castlevania. And like when he screams, all I can hear in my head is Drake from the second video game. And it just cracks me up all the time. Anyway, voice cast is great. The first season's only 4 episodes. It's very short. This first season is actually based on the third in the video game series. The third game is called Castlevania 3, Dracula's Curse. So the third game is actually a prequel to the original game. It takes place a few centuries before the first game happens. So it feels like they're telling this story through the anime in chronological order as opposed to like in-game order. So the series starts out, we're in this fictional country of Wallachia. We are introduced to a woman named Lisa, who is kind of going through the countryside collecting information, and she comes upon Vlad Tepes's castle. And she is very bold and unafraid, and she just goes up right to the front door, knocks on the door, and is like, yo, man, look, I know you can teach me about medicine. So open these doors, let me in and teach me because I really want to help these people. And I want to do it in a way that is science based and not based on like witchcraft or whatever. And so at first he's like, well, who are you just rolling up in my house talking about you want me to teach you some stuff? Anyway, they have a really, really kind of interesting banter between the two of them. And because they're both so strong headed or hard headed rather, um, they kind of fall into sync. And Dracula's like, you know what, you're the first human that I found interesting in a very long time. So sure, come on in. I'll teach you what I know. So then we have a time skip. We're 20 years later, same country and everything. With no warning whatsoever, Lisa is now being burned at the stake for being accused of being a witch. So we have moved 20 years in time, and now she is she's dying. There's a corrupt bishop. You can tell he's corrupt just by the sheer nature of the way that this character is drawn. He looks very shady. He looks like a shady old dude. So you've got this bishop, and he's basically like, no, she talked about she was doing all this science stuff. Really, she's a witch. She's doing witchcraft. She's helping people. She calls herself a healer. We're just going to burn her at the stake and be done with it. And in her like dying breath, she's kind of like, hey, don't punish them because they don't know what they're doing. Which actually kind of reminds me of a verse from the Bible when someone is like, forgive them, Lord, because they know not what they do.
That scene made me think of when Jesus is on the cross. Like,
exactly.
It's very similar to that. I felt I took a lot from that.
It definitely was. That was the first thing that popped into my head was the fact that these people literally strung you up and set you on fire, and your words to your husband, who happens to be Dracula, one of the worst like mass murderer villains of all time, is, hey, don't be mean to them because they don't know the extent of how wrong they are. So it kind of just gives you a hint into her character and the kind of person that she is. So obviously she dies at the being burned alive. When Dracula finds out that his wife has been murdered by the townspeople, of course, he goes nuts, and he shows up inside the flames, sort of, so to speak, and he gives the town a warning, and he says, I'm going to give you a year. I'm going to give you 1 year to get out of here. Anybody who is left here in a year's time, I am literally going to rain hell down upon you because you murdered the only person I have ever loved in the entire world. Okay, so he just told you straight up that this is exactly what he's going to do. So we fast forward to a year later, and the archbishop, who is different than the bishop that we met before, he's some schlubby old guy who can barely even stand out of his own chair. And he's like, the devil said he was going to come back in a year, and he never showed up. And then, of course, Dracula's hordes do show up. They start murdering townspeople. It is very gory. This series is definitely not for children. There are people that get ripped in half. There are heads get lobbed off. There are entrails all over the place. This is a very violent sequence. So true to his word, he gave the townspeople a year, comes back, kills everyone, and is slowly working his way through the entire country. So then we have another time skip, sort of, where it's like we come across Trevor Belmont. He is drunk in a bar. He has run out of beer, and the townspeople are kind of talking trash about the old school families, and his family happened to be one of them, the Belmont family, which they used to be monster hunters. So they've sort of fallen from grace. Trevor Belmont is the last of the Belmont line, so he is the one that is kind of keeping the lineage alive. He's just basically like this down and out guy. He has no money. He has no place to stay. He has no shelter, no nothing. He sleeps outside under trees and tries to get by, doing odd jobs here and there. Anyway, he gets pulled into this fight against Dracula's hordes and the church. So the corruption of the church has spread through the entire countryside. So he gets to this one town, runs into this tribe of people called Speakers. They're sort of peacekeepers, very kind of monk-like. They're nonviolent. They are there to help the people of the town, but the townspeople are very paranoid and think that they have brought the demon horde along with them. Anyway, the speaker is like, hey, look, I lost my grandchild. If you and Trevor is like, okay, look, if I find your grandchild and bring them back, will you please leave so that these town people don't murder you? And the speaker guy is like, okay, sure, fine. Well, it's a deal. So Trevor finds the grandchild. Grandchild turns out to be a girl who is also a magician. So now we have a monster hunter who has consecrated weapons that can kill demons, and a magician who can use fire and ice magic. So basically, they kind of stay behind, protect the town, because, of course, everything bad happens after the sun goes down. So sun goes down, all of these demon hordes come, and one of the demons actually can speak. And so he walks into the church where the corrupt priest is, and the priest is like, you cannot be here in the house of the Lord. And the demon, this is one of my favorite lines in the whole series. The demon is like, there is no God here. Like, please, you are bad. You're a bad person. You're corrupt. There's no one here to protect you, and there's nothing here that I can't walk into. So basically, the priest finally gets, or the bishop gets his just desserts. So he gets eaten by a demon, and then we get to the point where there's a legend, because of course there's a legend, right? So the legend is there is a savior buried below the town that can stop Dracula from wreaking havoc across the country. So Trevor and Sifa, who is played by Alejandro, is the speaker that he goes to find after he fights a Cyclops, which was very interesting. Him and Sifa wind up in another dungeon of sorts. They find a body in a coffin. Turns out that that body in the coffin is Adrian Tepesh, the son of Vlad and Lisa. He is a vampire, so he's half human, half vampire. His father wounded him so badly that he put himself into stasis for about a year because he disagreed with the way that his father was going about his revenge for his mother's death. So Dracula pretty much wounded him so terribly that he had to go to sleep to heal himself. So now that he's out, him and Sifa and Trevor fight, and then they decide, you know what? You're all trying to get rid of the same guy that I'm trying to get rid of, so why don't we just team up and work together? Because the legend says that the savior is going to work with a hunter and a magician to bring down Dracula. So that's the legend. The legend from the future is what they call it. So it's interesting, like after the 4 episodes, we get a team up, a very odd trilogy or trio rather, of a half human, half vampire, a magician, and a drunk hunter. And eventually they will all set out to bring Dracula to his demise. So it's very interesting. Lots of blood and gore, lots of violence. There's lots of fighting in this first season. There is not too much story development. It all kind of happens rather quickly. And it almost feels like this first season is a prequel, just like a prequel or a prelude to, or prologue, I guess, to everything that happens in seasons 2 and 3. Now, I've seen every episode of Castlevania. Mark hasn't. So I'm very excited to live vicariously through Mark as he watches this for the first time. Because I loved the first season, and I thought that the first season set everything else up really well. But Mark says he has a different opinion about the first season.
I watched it twice this week. So I watched it on Monday, and I'm glad I rewatched it because my opinion improved having watched it a second time. I know you love it, and I know that it's quite well thought of, Castlevania. So I know coming in with a negative opinion would be probably.
But I mean, it's not a negative opinion. I didn't think you had a negative opinion.
No, but I mean, like if I'd have just watched it the once, it would have been.
Oh,
fun.
yeah.
It was definitely more of a negative opinion. I'm glad I rewatched it a second time. I'm glad I gave it a second chance.
Yeah.
I definitely liked it a lot more having watched it a second time. Having watched it the first time, I was like, I don't know. It wasn't. I kept thinking this didn't feel like for me. Like so I was a bit disappointed because I was like, I know Jasmine.
Well, there's not much to sink your teeth into in that first season. I will give you that. Yes, there's not enough for you to like get attached to.
I was texting someone else, and we were talking about this before we started recording, and they like were like Castlevania, like excited, and I was like, okay, I was like definitely missing something, like, and so I rewatched it, and I'm glad I rewatched it. I made sure like I gave it my full attention. There was nothing in my hands. It was like I wasn't, you know, no, I didn't even. Well, I did take notes, but I made sure I was like they weren't on my phone. I was actually writing them down, and so there was no way of getting distracted. So my thoughts were, I felt a little bit like the Endune Chronicles in terms of rushed, and we both said that we felt the Endune Chronicles rushed through things, and I would say there was parts of this show, parts of this season that I was enjoying, and then I was like, oh, flipping heck, like skip to something else, like, and I was just like, can't we just develop what's going on here a little bit? It was like, so like in the first episode, like you just said, Dracula and his wife meet, and I was getting really into that, and I was getting into just how brash and brazen she was, like just literally just
especially
like,
for a human to just like roll up, and you know that this dude has a bad reputation.
well, she just walked in there and she just did not care that this was Dracula. Let's be honest, if I met Dracula and he was real, I would probably be fairly scared.
I would shit myself.
Yeah. I mean, I suppose if you met Dracula, he's most likely going to kill you. You might just say, "Look, man, before you do that, flipping heck to Dracula. Like, let's have let's at least talk.
Can we talk first? Yeah.
Can we not just talk for 10 minutes? Like, but I suppose if you are going to meet someone like that, you might just say, "Come on, man, give me 10 minutes." Like, but I loved how brash she was, and then suddenly to skip to like literally, I don't know how many years they skipped forward, like 20, was it 20 years? I knew it was quite a while. And like to suddenly skip like, and then just see her burning alive. And that's why I'm glad I rewatched this the second time, because she was like, they do not know what they've done and stuff like that, or what they do. And I even the first and the second time, I was a bit like, this is very much like Jesus on the cross, you know, like it's a very similar thing. And then like you say, then they show Dracula just, you know, burning down everybody and going nuts, and then suddenly episodes 2 to 4 were built very much off the back of that, but again they're following
but after Dracula basically disappeared for a year because he gave the townspeople a year, and he was like, I'm gonna come back and I'm gonna kill all of you people, and then they focused on, you know, someone else during that time.
So then episode 2 kicks in with Trevor Belmont and follows him 3 episodes as he's, like you just said, kind of getting the band together, and so I could tell it was Richard Armitage. I recognized his voice. So really strong actor, been in many things. He's been in the Hobbit films. He's was in The Stranger, which I loved like last year. I remember watching that in like one day. I was so addicted to The Stranger.
He was in Strike Back on Cinemax, which is a series I loved.
I've not seen that actually, but he was in Spooks as well. I literally could tell his voice straight away.
Oh yeah. He's got a very recognizable voice.
But I loved so when he met Cipher in the tomb, where he ends up like killing Cyclops, which I thought was, I actually did think that much. So that's the thing. There's some really cool moments. So the battle with Cyclops, and then when he meets Cipher, and there's instant like banter, and like you just said, like later on when they meet Alucard, and who's played by the brilliant James Callis from one of the best sci-fi shows of all time,
Battlestar
Galactica. Like, he's pretty much one of the best characters in it. Like, and he's like, you know, there's always a show where there's someone you want to punch. He was
he's that guy for sure, 100%.
But the character, not the actor. So. But yeah, and like, so I was like, it's such amazing cast, and the fight scene between Alucard and Trevor Belmonte is just amazing. Like, and I love the whip and all this kind of stuff. And,
I love Trevor's whip.
The sword fighting and everything is pretty cool. And actually, that brings us to probably one of the best lines in the entire 4 episodes. Killing you was the point. Living through it was a luxury. Like,
right, because it's basically they're both at a standstill where like Dracula has Trevor, you know, at his fingertips where he could just snap his neck in an instant, and Trevor has his sword pointed at Dracula's heart, or not Dracula, Alucard's heart, and he's like, well, I mean, this could go one of 2 ways. And then Sifa is in the background, and she's like, if you even make a move, I'll kill you before you get a chance to rip his throat out. So it's a standoff of epic proportions, pretty much. I
do love the humor as well. Like,
definitely.
So you know when But just before that fight, so when they end up in Alucard's tomb, he's like asking them why they're there and all this kind of stuff, and she gives this really like long-winded explanation, and he's like, yeah, but why are you here? And he's like, well, I just fell down a hole.
Oh yeah, there's even one part when they're fighting when throwing it back to the bar, Trevor knees Alucard in the nuts, and Alucard is like, this is not a bar fight, have some class. And I was like, in the middle of a fight for your life, you really stopped to say, can you please be classy about this?
Yeah, I know. When he said that, that did throw me off. Although it was funny, it was weird.
I thought it was hilarious.
So,
I thought that the writing in this first season was really, really great. In I think it's episode 3 when Trevor is talking with the speakers, he's talking to the leader of the speakers, and he's going on about, this is not my problem. I'm not going to stay here and risk my life for these people. And he's talking about the people of the town. And the speaker is like, well, don't you feel any compassion? And Trevor is like, no, this is what the church wanted. My family were the only people who could have fought Dracula and his army, but they didn't want us. They wanted to fight the darkness on their own terms. So good luck to them. And the speaker is like, yeah, but all of these ordinary people are caught up in this battle between the church and these families and the demons. And Trevor says, for evil bastards to win power, all ordinary people have to do is stand aside and keep quiet. There is always a choice. So I thought that Trevor is wise, even though he pretends to just kind of like play himself off as like the unlucky drunk just going from town to town. But you can tell that there's something deeper within him, that he's not just going to abandon post, and he's not just going to abandon these people no matter how much he says he wants to. Like, he ends up doing the right thing in the end. So I think there's so many seeds that are sown in this first episode or first season, even though it's only 4 episodes, that it's so exciting. And like, to watch it change so dramatically in the second season to when we kind of go back in time, because one of Mark's complaints was not enough time getting to know Dracula and Lisa before all of this stuff happened. And I told him before we started, I was like, well, good thing for you, they cover a lot of that in season 2. So I think season 2 of the 3 seasons so far, season 2, in my opinion, is the best. It has the most interesting characters. It's got some of the best dialogue. Continues with the excellent fight scenes. But I just love the story in the second season, because we do get a lot more Dracula, and we get a lot more of his motives and what's going on in his head. But we also get like his ideas actually reaching other people versus him being a one-man show pulling together these mindless, thoughtless demons. I mean, we get to see how these demon hordes are created. We get to see the humans that he has actually come to trust and work with in order to build his demon army. So as powerful as Dracula is, he still can't do this on his own. So to watch the character development come through in the second season, it's such a treat. So I'm super excited about that. But I love this first season so much because I think it really kind of sets the tone for a no holds barred, no bullshit. Like, this is our show. It's violent, it's bloody, it's gory, but we're also witty, we're funny, we're biting. I mean, it doesn't pull any punches with the writing. It doesn't pull any punches with the way that these characters go through the world. So I really, really loved this first season, short as it was.
I think, so that's like you just said, my main complaint, really. It was too short and disjointed. I just felt it was a little bit, I don't know, it didn't feel like it dwelled enough on certain places, and I just felt like I was getting good moments, and then suddenly we were rushing to the next good moment or whatever it was, and I know. I think those are fair criticisms, definitely.
I
said, was it? So just getting, I don't know. So I was just getting, you're sort of getting into something, and then, like I said, the first episode, I felt like I was really getting into the Dracula thing with his wife, and then suddenly, episode 2, we're just given an entire brand new cast and characters, and I was like, what? And then I was like, I wanted to see more from the wife of Dracula. Like I said, though, I didn't know that would be covered later on.
Yeah.
So I don't know. Just I'm really hoping that season 2 and 3 will be so much better because I mean I've heard good things. So I'm
are.
glad
I promise.
one of the things I wanted to add was when I was preparing for this episode for this review of Castlevania, I got out the Nintendo Classic and turned it on, and so I didn't. So I was saying to Jasmine before we recorded, I was a Sega and then PlayStation man as a child, and so we never had Nintendos or Super Nintendos or anything like that. But we did buy a Nintendo Classic a couple of years ago. Occasionally it gets used, and before we recorded, I decided to put it on. There was only Castlevania 1 and 2 on there, not 3, which is based off of. It just makes you realize how far we have come in terms of gaming. So to play as Trevor Belmonte, that's what it looks like to me anyway. In the second game, I didn't check my facts on that, to be honest. But he's walking around with his whip in the game, and just literally, it's just it's just like playing like Mario. Rather than jumping on Toads, you're just flicking the whip as demons come out. I did play it until I eventually died, and which was about 10 minutes into the game. I was like, this is just. I know probably back in 1986 or whenever it was it came out, it was probably probably people in the playground were probably talking about how brilliant it was, but I was like, this is awful game. But
I mean, going back, I feel the same way. Like I have such a hard time playing platformers, like the platformer games where the screen is always moving behind you. It's not the same. I think once you have started playing like the new gen games, it's impossible to kind of go back to that unless you're specifically looking for that sense of nostalgia. Like you said you were Sega and PlayStation. I grew up on actually one of my cousin's old Atari systems and Super NES. So I played a ton of Mario when I was a kid. And I can't imagine, like, to me now that just seems so antiquated, the whole platformer kind of style of gaming. So yeah, I imagine it'd be hard to go back to that.
I think my dad as well at a car boot, he found one of those old consoles, and I can't remember the brand name of it, but it was like you had these little controllers that were on cords to they're like I don't know what it is, like curled cords, and you could play tennis. So you had like a thing you could like a wheel or something, you could like just turn it around, and you had a board that would go up and down the screen, and so you could just play tennis with somebody on the TV, like literally.
Oh, you mean like Pong?
Yeah, like the bats would go up and down the screen on either side, and then the ball like would go from one side to the other, and obviously the goal was to get it past the other person's bat.
Yeah,
and like
Pong.
So. Oh well, yeah. I think it was tennis or something over here, but yeah, we had one of those as well. But anyway, we're going way off topic now. So like Castlevania, like I say, I wanted to play a little bit of it before we chatted about it, just sort of to go to its origins. And it's just crazy to think how we went from a game from early 1980s to this anime series. I know we had a little chat saying about how this went through sort of development hell and movies.
It was originally they had talked about doing a movie, and it was 2007, and nothing was happening. And then Warren Ellis had always been attached to it, and Adi Shankar jumped in. I want to say 2015, and when he jumped in, it kind of then got a bit more noticed, and that was when Netflix picked it up. So.
I would just love to know like how they went from having this real basic concept game, which I know had I know it had a story, but it was never. The story was obviously. I'm making an assumption here, probably never as elaborate as the anime TV series.
Yeah.
So I would love to know how they went from. I'd love to know how did someone play the game, and maybe they were playing things in their head, like how this would work.
Well, I think the way that Adi explained it, and when I talked to him, he said it was because he had just moved to like this new town, and he didn't really have any friends at school. So when he come home from school, he would play video games, and he was like, and then the video game characters kind of became my friends, and you just kind of build stories around the characters because you spend so much time with them anyway that you just kind of let your imagination run wild. So he said it's always one of those things that he's been interested in, and when he saw the opportunity to get his hands on it, he jumped at it.
So that's actually quite interesting to hear, like how, because I was thinking, how do you go from this concept of this very basic video game to what we have in Netflix anime, like 30 plus years later? it's quite interesting to hear that it started as actually somebody 5-10 years old playing video games and started just imagining what he would do with those characters. So yeah, that's quite an interesting background.
It's sort of like an iteration of fan fiction in a way. Like you just kind of fill in the gaps with your own imagination based on a foundation that someone else has provided.
Mm-hmm.
So,
but yeah, I mean, like I say, I wasn't as into this first season, but there were good moments in there. Like, I'm not gonna disagree like with that. There are good moments. Like, definitely the first episode, I want to see more of Dracula and his wife as we go on. I did like the banter between Cipher and Trevor Belmonte.
Oh, there's going to be plenty more of that.
But initially, I was like, I got to be honest. Initially, I thought Trevor Belmonte's character was fairly one-dimensional. But as the 3 episodes went on,
it's not until he actually talks to the speakers and you kind of get the sense that he feels like his family had been wronged. And when he starts to talk about what the church did to his family, it's kind of when like his true character sort of comes out, and you realize that he's not just some like random drunk rolling through town living off of his family's name, but he's actually kind of embarrassed with the way that his family was treated, you know?
Yeah. So we'll continue next week. We've rated season 1 3.5 out of 5, and
next week we tackle season 2.
Yeah. So recommendations for this week. I'm probably sticking with a similar theme here. WandaVision episode 5. I know I said episode 4 last week, and I know we reviewed episodes 1 and 2 a few weeks back, and I think 1 and 2, me and you just weren't that bothered. I mean, do you know what, actually, I was thinking about this, I was kind of reflecting on it. They were nice, actually good episodes, and it was quite unique. It was quite a unique approach, and actually in this time of horribleness that everyone's going through, they were actually quite nice, light-hearted things to do.
Yeah, it was nice to see Vision be funny.
Yeah, and that was something we referred to as well. Just the humor was brilliant. But things started to change, as I said in episode 4. I didn't really elaborate too much. So Jasmine hasn't watched, even though I'm nagging her to
I know. I'm working on it.
But so episode 4 just abandoned the model that we'd seen in the first 3 episodes and took us outside and showed us Sword and a bunch of other characters, and brought some characters from Ant-Man in and from Thor in, and I was just like, this is really cool. Then episode 5 happened, and it starts back in the WandaVision format again. I was like, oh, we're back to this, are we? But then it also showed us outside, so it was going between the 2 formats, which actually plays really well. So in this episode, Vision has pretty much become aware now that there's just something that's not right, and he has actually a bit of a brawl with Wanda, saying he can't remember any of his life before this, but he knows there's something else. And then she keeps trying to control him so he forgets, because she wants this life to continue. And it ends on one of the biggest cliffhangers that I just did. I was thinking something had to be coming. Like, I was thinking that a few days ago. I was thinking something's got to be coming. Although I've been saying the last 2 or 3 episodes there's been fairly good twists, I just did not expect this to happen. It was a clever move by Marvel, so I'm going to spoil it now. So if you've not seen it, I know. Yeah. So I was
Please pause this or skip it.
I was not going to spoil it because Jasmine had not watched it, but
I can't avoid spoilers. So
yeah, so
I already know what happened.
But hopefully next week, like, we'll be able to chat about it in par, because I'm sure that I literally am thinking there's going to be something next week. So I think it's only 8 episodes, right? So there's but anyway, so she opens the door in the final moments, and her brother is at the door. And they did it so well. Like, the camera is behind his head, so you see the grey hair. And I was like, it's his brother. And then, no, it's not his brother the way we all thought it was going to be his brother. Because I did keep thinking to myself, if she's brought Vision back, why don't she bring her brother back, right?
Yeah.
And it's only the actor who plays Quicksilver from the X-Men franchise.
Dun, dun, dun.
And then because the people in Sword are watching the live feed of the TV show, they make a comment going, "She's recast her brother." And so that, like, I was just like, what? And then they kind of just end the episode there. So it's just got me kind of all kinds of crazy, really. Like, what does this mean? Is this just a complete red herring? Are they not going to ever address the X-Men again? Is that just it? Like, I mean, I know they're going to bring the X-Men in at some point, but I mean,
they got to bring them into the fold. This has got to be one of the gateways.
But what are they going to do? Like, I mean, are they going to bring back all the cast of the X-Men? Is it from the Fox world? Are they going to somehow? Is this what leads to this multiverse of madness? Is it? I don't know. Like, I'm like 1,000 questions now, or is this just literally a throwaway cameo, and next episode he's going to just sort of be phased out again or something? I hope they don't do that. Like, just be. I want to know. It's driving me mad. Like, do you know what though? Like, I reckon I was thinking about this. Because we're all locked down at the moment, we can't really see. Well, over here, I can't go and see anybody that I work with and work in offices and stuff like that. But do you know how they used to always say about the water cooler thing? Like, and this is where sometimes I actually do prefer the weekly format over the binge watch, because and this used to be like this with Lost. I used to come in every week to work and like talk about, like, we'd watch Lost, and the next day everyone come to work, "Did you see Lost last night?"
Yeah.
And WandaVision is like, it's like that now, but there's like no one to talk about it with. Like,
you've got the entire internet to talk about it with, though.
Oh yeah, I suppose so. But but straight away I was like, so I had to explain it to my wife and my daughter, like, well, what? Because they've never seen the X-Men, so I was like, it's from what's it called? Future Past.
Days of Future Past.
Yeah, Days of Future Past.
Yeah.
So I've instantly, I'm like questioning now. And last week I started to think, are we going down the story from the comics, House of M? I'm still thinking there might be a bit of that, but I don't know. I'm just wondering if it's going to be, so if anyone here has read House of M, it led to Wanda getting rid of most of the mutants. I'm wondering if this is going to be the opposite. Like, I don't know. So,
where Wanda is the reason that mutants come into the Marvel Cinematic Universe.
Yeah,
Oh man, the next few years of Marvel films are going to be very interesting because we know Wanda plays a big part in the Doctor Strange sequel, which is the Doctor Strange sequel is called The Multiverse of Madness. And we also know that Doctor Strange plays a very big part in Spider-Man 3, which has so many Fox characters in it, or Sony characters in it.
Yeah.
So maybe she is the one who opens this door, and the next few films are just kind of trying to either set things back to the way that they were, or trying to adapt to all of these new heroes that have now made their way into the MCU.
I think this is actually quite a good build up. So I know that DC are going to do something in Flashpoint and bring in Michael Keaton and stuff, which I'm excited about too. But I can see this Wonder thing being a really big deal. Very clever that they brought a Fox character in, and we know Spider-Man's bringing in Sony characters.
Oh man!
I don't know. It's just getting me pumped now. I just want I want lockdown to finish anyway, but I just want these films to just get out now. So.
My recommendation this week is nowhere near as exciting as WandaVision, but I just discovered this new manga series. It is called Night of the Ice. Apparently, I am on a sports kick right now, so I've been watching lots of sports anime, and this is my first sports manga that I'm reading. It is basically a figure skating manga, not quite as flamboyant as Yuri on Ice. I do love Yuri on Ice very much, but Night of the Ice is about these Japanese figure skaters that are kind of making a name for themselves in the figure skating world. The top Japanese hopeful, his name is Kinajimi. He is a straight up otaku. He's obsessed with this TV series called Lala. Revolves around this character who has like this magic wand, and she has like a fairy Pegasus type, half human, half centaur kind of creature that talks to her as well. So he is obsessed with that. He's got posters and figurines, and if you walked into his room, you would never ever know that this kid was 21 years old and that he was a national figure skating champion. It's really interesting. It's fun. It's cute. One of the things I love the most about it, figure skating is my favorite Winter Olympic sport. So when they get to the actual skating bits in the manga, it's a lot of fun because they talk about, oh, it's a triple Lutz, it's a quadruple Lutz. And it's just like, it's so exciting to kind of read about sports happening. So Night of the Ice, it's cute. It's a fun, quick read. That's my recommendation for this week.
So next week you can come back to Geeks Unleashed, and where we'll be reviewing the first issue from Image Comics, Radiant Black. There's a lot of buzz around this issue already.
Yeah, it's got me pumped.
There's some rumors going around about what this may lead to for Image.
Dun.
I don't know. The rumors I've heard are potentially Image might be going down the route of their own shared universe. So,
I love a good shared universe.
Yeah, I do. For Image Comics, that would be unique because obviously Image is broken up into many studios and not really. I know Kirkman's had his own sort of shared thing with Invincible, and they've kind of tried over the years to do sort of crossovers across Image. So, and actually, crossover itself is sort of pulling characters in. So, yeah, I'd like to see what's going on with Radiant Black. And then we're also going to carry on with our theme throughout the month. We're going to review Castlevania Season 2.
Whoop, whoop. And as a reminder, don't forget, we did start a second podcast where we tackle some of the most essential graphic novels of all time. Our fourth Late to the Party Book Club episode was Monstrous Awakening, Volume 1. It was written by Marjorie Liu and drawn by Sana Takeda. That episode came out at the beginning of January. Our next episode is coming out pretty soon. It is going to be the graphic novel March by Andrew Iden and John Lewis. So be sure to tune in for that one.
And you can also follow us on social media with Geeks Unleashed on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter.
And you can get this podcast wherever you get your podcast. Podbean, Google, Apple, Spotify, TuneIn. We are everywhere. So be sure to give us a 5-star review and tell your geeky friends.
Everyone have a good week and stay geeky.
Bye.